You don't need to chase him. You need to do something far more powerful. If you want to leave a permanent psychological mark on a man, it's not about gifts or constant attention. It happens when you master your presence, your self-respect, and the kind of emotional imprint that lingers long after you've walked away. Most women focus on pleasing, but few understand how to create desire that lasts, and even fewer know how to stay inside a man's subconscious without saying a single word. If you skip this message or let your attention wander, you'll miss the exact patterns that make his mind crave your energy. So stay with me, because the real power is hidden in what you're about to hear, and if you truly absorb it, he will never look at you the same way again. If this message already resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and share it with another woman who needs to hear this truth today. You might help her rise and save her from years of confusion. Now let's begin with the biggest mistake most women make, and why that one mistake makes them forgettable in seconds. The power of presence he cannot forget. Every woman is told to look perfect, to speak in the right way, to dress in a style that catches attention. But the truth is, what leaves a permanent psychological mark on a man is not the surface. It is your presence. Presence is not just being in the room. It is the way your energy fills the space, the way you carry yourself, the calm or mystery that lingers after you've left. Most people pass through life unnoticed. The ones remembered are those who know how to command presence without saying a word. Presence begins with stillness. When you walk into a room and don't rush to prove yourself, it creates a different atmosphere. Most women try too hard to be seen. They speak louder, laugh too much, or exaggerate. But presence is the opposite. It is the quiet confidence that makes people look twice without knowing why. Men feel this difference immediately. They notice the woman who does not chase attention but allows attention to come to her naturally. Another part of presence is how you hold yourself. Not in a stiff way, but in a way that shows you are comfortable in your own body. When you stand or sit without fidgeting, when your movements are intentional instead of nervous, it signals strength. A man may not analyze it consciously, but his subconscious picks it up. His nervous system tells him, this woman is different. That impression sticks even when he tries to forget. Eye contact also shapes presence. Not the kind of stare that feels forced, but the steady gaze that meets his and holds it just long enough to make him wonder what you are thinking. When you don't break eye contact too quickly, you communicate certainty. And when you let your eyes move away on your own terms, you communicate control. That balance imprints deeply in his mind. He remembers the way you looked at him more than the words you said. Your voice is part of your presence too. Many women think they need to speak a lot to be noticed. But the opposite is true. When you slow down, when your words are chosen with care, your voice gains weight. You don't need to rush or fill every silence. Speaking with calm rhythm shows that you are not seeking approval. You are simply sharing what you choose. That energy leaves a mark because men are not used to it. Most interactions are rushed and shallow. A steady voice becomes unforgettable. Presence is also about emotional control. If you react to everything quickly, you appear easy to move. But when you respond with thought, with composure, you show depth. Men feel this difference strongly. They sense that you are not someone who can be easily shaken, and that makes them respect and remember you. It is not about coldness. It is about carrying balance so that your presence brings peace and mystery at the same time. Another key aspect is detachment. Presence becomes powerful when it does not beg for validation. You don't need to prove you are worthy of attention, because you already know it. That inner security radiates outward. A man may not understand why he feels drawn to you, but he feels it. The more you embody that quiet detachment, the stronger the imprint you leave. Think of presence as the invisible field around you. It is not built by beauty alone. It is built by self-respect, by confidence, by the way you carry silence without fear. Men are surrounded daily by noise, by people trying to pull their attention. But the woman who can simply be without chasing, without proving, stands out in his memory. Long after you leave, he will recall how he felt around you. Calm, curious, unsettled, intrigued. That is the mark. Presence leaves. Presence does not require perfection. In fact, it works because it is authentic. You don't need to look flawless or act flawless. You only need to own yourself as you are, fully and unapologetically. That ownership is rare, and because it is rare, it becomes unforgettable. This is why presence is the first and most powerful pattern that leaves a permanent psychological mark. It is not about what you wear, what you give, or what you say. It is about the way you exist in the moment. A man can forget gifts, words, even beauty, but he will never forget the way your presence made him feel. Mystery that awakens his subconscious. Most women are taught to impress a man with constant attention, availability, and openness. They believe that if they explain themselves clearly and always show interest, they will win his affection. But psychology shows us that this approach does not create lasting impact. What marks a man deeply is not full exposure, but mystery. Mystery is the force that awakens his subconscious, making him think of you long after the interaction is over. Mystery is not about playing manipulative games. It is not about being cold or pretending you do not care. It is about allowing space for curiosity. When you reveal everything too quickly, his mind has no room to wonder. Curiosity dies, and with it, attraction fades. But when you hold back certain parts of yourself, when you keep some stories, thoughts, and feelings for the right moment, you create an invisible pull. His subconscious keeps working, asking, "Wait, what else is there? What am I missing?" One of the strongest ways to create mystery is through silence. Many women rush to fill every pause in conversation, afraid that quiet moments mean boredom. But in truth, silence creates depth. When you are comfortable with silence, you show that you are not desperate to prove yourself. He begins to wonder what is happening in your mind. That wondering is the spark of mystery. Another part of mystery is unpredictability. When you act in ways that are not always expected, you awaken his attention. If he can predict every response, he stops being alert. But when you surprise him with a new perspective, when you show a side of yourself that he did not see coming, you leave a stronger imprint. Mystery is not about confusion, but about layers. You allow him to see one part, then later another, keeping the connection alive. Psychology explains that the human brain is drawn to incomplete patterns. When something feels unfinished, the mind keeps returning to it. This is why cliffhangers work in stories. The same principle applies in relationships. When you do not reveal everything at once, you become that unfinished story in his subconscious. He cannot help but return, seeking to fill in the missing pieces. Mystery also comes from independence. A woman who has her own life, passions, and priorities automatically awakens curiosity. When a man sees that you are not always available, that your time is valuable, he begins to wonder where you are and what you are doing. That wondering is not negative. It makes him respect you and crave more of your presence. Independence creates space for mystery because it shows that your world is bigger than just him. Another powerful element is emotional depth. When you reveal emotions in layers, sometimes soft, sometimes strong, you show complexity. Men remember complexity because it challenges them. A simple pattern is easy to forget, but a woman with emotional range becomes unforgettable. She is not flat or predictable. She is alive, dynamic, and mysterious. It is important to understand that mystery is not about distance for its own sake. If you stay too far, you create disconnection. Mystery works only when combined with warmth. You give enough for him to feel close, but not so much that everything is exposed. It is the balance between closeness and reserve that leaves a permanent mark. When a man cannot fully explain why he is drawn to you, when he finds himself thinking about you without meaning to, it is usually because of mystery. His subconscious is activated, searching for answers. He replays moments in his mind, remembers your words, imagines what you might say next. You have entered his inner world without forcing it. In the end, mystery is not a tactic. It is a way of being. It is knowing your value so deeply that you do not rush to hand it all over. It is trusting that what is hidden is just as powerful as what is revealed. And when you carry that balance, you awaken something primal in him. His subconscious cannot let go, because mystery ties you to his memory more than any words ever could. If you want to go deeper and truly understand the hidden patterns shaping your relationships, you can explore the Jung method. The link is pinned in the first comment. Detachment that makes him crave your energy. One of the strongest psychological patterns that leaves a permanent mark on a man is detachment. At first, the word may sound cold, as if it means not caring. But in truth, healthy detachment is the exact opposite. It is the calm confidence that shows you do not need to cling, chase, or beg for attention. It is the quiet strength that tells him, "I choose you, but I do not depend on you." That energy is irresistible, because it makes him crave what he cannot fully control. When a woman is overly available, always present, always giving, she removes the element of desire. He begins to take her for granted, not because he is cruel, but because the human mind values what is scarce more than what is constant. Detachment creates that sense of value. It teaches him that your time, your energy, and your presence are not endless resources. They are precious. They must be earned. Detachment shows itself in small ways. When you do not rush to answer every message. When you let him wait not to punish, but because you have a life that matters. When you do not rearrange everything just to fit his schedule, but instead keep your own priorities intact. These moments send a powerful signal. You are not desperate for his attention. You are secure enough to let him come to you, and because of that, he begins to feel the craving grow. Psychology explains this through the principle of contrast. People notice absence more than presence. If you are always there, your presence becomes normal. But when you step back, when you are not available every moment, he feels the gap. That gap activates longing. It makes him aware of how much your energy affects him. Instead of forgetting you, he remembers you more. Detachment is what keeps you alive in his thoughts when you are not around. Another layer of detachment is emotional balance. Many women give too much of themselves emotionally, pouring all their fears, hopes, and dreams too quickly. While honesty is important, flooding him with everything removes the space for him to invest. Detachment means sharing, but with boundaries. It means holding parts of yourself sacred, only revealed with time. This balance keeps him engaged because he senses that there is more to discover. Detachment also means not overreacting to his behavior. When he pulls away, you do not panic. When he is distant, you do not chase. Instead, you hold your ground, trusting that your value does not depend on his mood. This calm response is rare. Most people mirror insecurity with insecurity, but when you remain steady, he feels the difference. He begins to crave your stability because it contrasts with the chaos he feels elsewhere. Another reason detachment works so deeply is because it speaks to his subconscious fears. Many men fear losing freedom in relationships. They resist when they feel trapped. But when you practice detachment, you give space. You show that loving you does not mean losing himself. Instead, it means choosing you freely. That freedom turns into desire, because he feels safe in your independence. Detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean ignoring him or refusing to care. It means knowing your worth so completely that you do not collapse without his attention. It means giving love without losing yourself. That self-respect is what makes him crave you more. He sees that you are not asking for permission to exist. You are not clinging to his validation, and that confidence leaves a permanent mark on his mind. Over time, he realizes that the more detached you are, the more attached he becomes. He notices that he thinks of you when you are not there. He finds himself wondering what you are doing, who you are with, and when he will see you again. Your detachment creates space, and that space becomes the place where his longing grows. In the end, detachment is one of the most powerful tools a woman has, not as manipulation, but as truth. Because you do not need to chase him. You do not need to beg for his love. When you embody detachment, you show him that your energy is valuable, rare, and unforgettable. And that is what makes him crave you more deeply than anything else. Emotional contrast he cannot resist. One of the most powerful ways to leave a permanent psychological mark on a man is through emotional contrast. Human beings are wired to notice change, to be moved by shifts, and to be impacted when two extremes exist side by side. Flat, predictable emotions are forgettable, but when a woman embodies contrast, warmth and strength, softness and intensity, calm and passion, she becomes unforgettable. A man's subconscious holds on to that variety because it stimulates him on multiple levels at once. Think about a song that stays in your memory. It is not the one that plays the same note over and over. It is the one that moves between highs and lows, between quiet and loud, between tension and release. The same is true in relationships. A woman who shows only sweetness may be pleasant but eventually predictable. A woman who mixes sweetness with depth, lightness with seriousness, joy with mystery, she leaves an imprint that cannot fade. Emotional contrast begins with warmth. When you offer genuine kindness, empathy, and understanding, you create a safe space. He feels comfortable, accepted, even seen. But if that warmth is constant with no variation, it loses power. This is where contrast comes in. Alongside warmth, you also show intensity. The spark of passion in your eyes, the firmness in your voice when you set boundaries, the fire that says you are not afraid to stand strong. This blend makes him pay attention. His mind cannot file you into one simple category. You are more than one thing, and that complexity is unforgettable. Another layer of contrast is playfulness mixed with depth. When you can laugh easily, tease him gently, or create lighthearted moments, you bring joy. But when you can also shift into meaningful conversations, into silence that holds weight, into reflections that reveal your soul, you awaken something deeper. He begins to realize that you are not one-dimensional. You carry both the fun and the profound, and that combination imprints on his memory. Psychology explains that contrast keeps the brain alert. When something is always the same, the mind adapts and stops noticing. But when there are shifts, the mind stays awake, recording and remembering. This is why emotional contrast leaves such a strong mark. It prevents him from ever feeling bored or indifferent around you. His subconscious remains engaged, pulled back into awareness every time you shift from one energy to another. Contrast also shows an independence combined with connection. When you show him that you can stand alone, that you do not need him to complete you, you project strength. But when you also allow moments of openness, when you let him feel that his presence matters, you project softness. That balance is rare. Many women lean too far in one direction, either too dependent or too distant. But when you can embody both, you become the woman he cannot forget. Another kind of contrast is patience mixed with passion. When you can wait calmly, when you do not rush or demand, you show maturity. But when the moment is right and you express excitement, energy, or intensity, you show passion. That rhythm of calm followed by fire stirs his emotions in ways that last long after the moment ends. What makes emotional contrast so powerful is that it mirrors life itself. Life is not flat. It is full of ups and downs, joy and pain, light and shadow. A woman who reflects this truth feels real, alive, authentic. She is not pretending to be perfect. She is embodying the full range of human experience, and men remember that because it resonates with their own hidden depths. To him, this contrast becomes addictive. He cannot predict you fully. He cannot place you in a simple box. Every encounter feels fresh, alive, and slightly mysterious. He may not understand why he keeps thinking of you, but it is because his subconscious is replaying those shifts, those changes, those moments when you surprised him with another side of yourself. In the end, emotional contrast is not about acting or creating drama. It is about being whole. It is about allowing every part of yourself to exist, the tender and the strong, the gentle and the fierce. When you embody this, you leave a psychological mark he cannot resist. Because you are not just one note in his memory, you are the entire song, and he cannot stop replaying it in his mind. Feminine confidence that imprints deeply. Confidence is often misunderstood. Many believe it is about being loud, about taking up space, about proving strength. But feminine confidence is different. It is quiet, steady, and deeply magnetic. It is not about forcing anyone to notice you. It is about knowing your own worth so completely that your presence speaks louder than words. And when a woman carries this kind of confidence, it leaves a permanent mark on a man's mind. Feminine confidence begins with self-acceptance. A woman who embraces her flaws as well as her beauty creates a unique energy. She does not try to hide who she is. She does not chase approval. This natural acceptance makes her memorable because it is rare. Many people spend their lives trying to become someone else. But a woman who is rooted in herself stands out without effort. This confidence shows in the way she moves. She walks into a room without needing to compete. She speaks without rushing. She allows silence without panic. Every action communicates, "I am enough as I am." Men notice this immediately. Their subconscious tells them this woman cannot be easily shaken, and that impression stays with them long after she is gone. Another part of feminine confidence is boundaries. A confident woman does not allow anyone to cross lines that harm her. She says no when she needs to, and she does not apologize for protecting her peace. Boundaries may feel simple, but they are powerful. A man may not admit it, but he respects the woman who knows how to say no more than the one who always says yes. That respect imprints deeply, because it sets her apart from those who compromise themselves to be accepted. Confidence is also seen in how she values her time. She does not give it away to anyone who demands it. She invests it where it matters. This scarcity makes her presence more valuable. A man remembers the woman who is not always available, not because she is playing games, but because her life is full. She has passions, goals, and responsibilities that matter to her. That independence sends a strong message. Her world is complete with or without him. Another form of feminine confidence is vulnerability without fear. Some confuse confidence with hardness, but true confidence allows softness. A confident woman can admit when she is sad, when she is hopeful, when she is moved. She does not hide emotions out of shame. But at the same time, she does not collapse under them. This balance of strength and openness is unforgettable. It tells him that she is human but unshaken. That contrast lingers in his mind because it is both rare and real. Psychology explains that confidence is one of the most attractive qualities because it reduces uncertainty. When a woman knows who she is, she gives off a sense of stability. But feminine confidence goes further. It adds warmth. It is not intimidating. It draws people in instead of pushing them away. That is why it leaves such a deep imprint. A man not only admires it, he feels safe in it. Over time, he realizes that her confidence changes the way he behaves around her. He chooses his words more carefully. He respects her space. He wants to live up to the standard she carries. This influence is not forced. It is the natural effect of her energy. And that influence lasts even when she is no longer around. Confidence also affects how she responds to setbacks. Instead of breaking, she bends. Instead of doubting her entire worth over one mistake, she learns and moves forward. A man witnessing this resilience cannot forget it. It shows him that she is not fragile, but she is also not closed off. She is balanced, grounded, alive. In the end, feminine confidence is not about perfection. It is about authenticity. It is about standing in your truth without shrinking and without shouting. It is the calm certainty that you are enough, and that anyone who comes into your life is there by choice, not by need. This energy is rare, and because it is rare, it leaves a permanent psychological mark. A man who meets a woman with this kind of confidence will never see another woman the same way again. The silence that speaks louder than words. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill every pause with words, laughter, or noise, afraid that quiet moments mean awkwardness. But silence can be one of the most powerful tools a woman has. When used with confidence, silence speaks louder than anything she could ever say. For a man, this silence can become unforgettable, leaving a mark on his memory that words alone could never achieve. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. When you sit with him without rushing to talk, you create space for connection. In that space, his mind begins to work. He notices the way you look at him, the calm in your breathing, the steadiness of your presence. He feels the tension build, not as discomfort, but as intensity. This kind of silence is heavy with meaning, and it lingers long after the moment ends. One of the strongest ways silence leaves a mark is in eye contact. When you look at him without speaking, you communicate more than any sentence could. Your gaze tells him that you are not afraid to be seen, and you are not afraid to see him fully. That courage unsettles him in the best way. He will remember the way you looked at him far longer than the words exchanged. Silence also allows mystery to grow. When you do not reveal everything at once, when you allow pauses, you leave space for his imagination. The human brain is drawn to incomplete experiences. When something feels unfinished, the mind keeps returning to it. Silence works in the same way. He leaves the interaction still thinking about what you might have said, what you might be hiding, what he still does not know about you. That curiosity binds you to his subconscious. Another part of silence is restraint. Many women feel the need to explain themselves constantly, to justify their actions, to prove their worth. But silence shows confidence. When you choose not to defend every decision, when you let your actions speak, you show strength. Men notice this, even if they cannot describe it. They feel the difference between someone who chases approval with words and someone who is secure enough to let silence hold its own. Silence also creates contrast. When you speak after a pause, your words carry more weight. Because they are not lost in noise, they land with impact. He listens more carefully, remembers more clearly, and values what you say. This effect imprints deeply because it is rare. Most people dilute their words by speaking too much. A woman who uses silence makes her words unforgettable. Another powerful aspect is the emotional charge silence carries. When a man feels something for you, silence between you is not empty. It is filled with tension, desire, and anticipation. That charged quietness becomes one of the most memorable experiences for him. He may not recall the details of every conversation, but he will never forget the silent moments that made his heart race. Silence also teaches patience. When you do not rush, when you are comfortable waiting, you show that you are not desperate. That patience communicates value. He realizes you are not trying to trap him, not trying to demand attention every second. You are simply present, calm, and steady. That steadiness leaves a mark because it makes him feel both challenged and safe. Psychology confirms that silence can be a form of communication stronger than speech. It reflects control, self-respect, and depth. A man may meet many women who speak beautifully, but the one who knows how to let silence work for her will remain in his mind. He will remember the moments where nothing was said but everything was felt. In the end, silence is not weakness. It is strength. It is the language of confidence, mystery, and presence. It is the pause that makes the music meaningful, the space that gives shape to the words. And for a man, it is one of the most unforgettable experiences you can give, because long after the words are gone, the silence will still echo in his memory, reminding him of you. Small acts that shape lasting memory. People often believe that it is the big gestures that make someone unforgettable. They imagine expensive gifts, dramatic confessions, or grand surprises. But psychology shows us the opposite. What truly leaves a permanent mark on a man are the small, consistent acts that reach into his subconscious and stay there. These gestures seem simple, almost ordinary, yet they carry weight because of the meaning behind them. A small act might be the way you remember something he mentioned in passing. Perhaps he spoke about a challenge at work, a childhood memory, or a favorite meal. When you bring it up later, casually and naturally, you show that you listened, that you paid attention. This simple act imprints deeply because most people forget. He realizes you valued his words, and that awareness leaves a mark. Another small act is kindness that expects nothing in return. It might be as simple as offering encouragement when he feels uncertain, or doing something thoughtful without announcing it. The key is subtlety. You are not trying to impress him with scale. You are showing care in ways that feel natural. These quiet gestures bypass his defenses and land directly in his heart. Small acts are powerful because they are repeatable. Big gestures happen rarely and fade quickly, but consistent small acts build memory over time. He may not recall every detail, but his subconscious collects them, creating an emotional imprint that tells him, "She mattered." Another powerful example is the way you use touch. Not constant, not demanding, but gentle and intentional. A hand on his arm when he speaks, a brief brush as you pass by. These small touches carry more impact than dramatic affection. They create micro moments of connection that linger in his nervous system. His body remembers them even if his mind tries to forget. Tone of voice can also be a small act that shapes memory. When you speak with warmth, when your words carry calmness instead of chaos, it becomes a safe sound in his mind. He may recall the exact way you said something, the softness of your laughter, or the steadiness in your voice when he needed it most. These impressions do not fade quickly. They become anchors in his subconscious. Even your attention itself can be a small act. In a world full of distraction, truly listening is rare. When you give him your focus, putting aside the phone, looking directly at him, hearing not only his words but his emotions, he feels it. That experience becomes unforgettable because it is rare and meaningful. Psychology explains that memory attaches more strongly to emotion than to logic. This is why the small acts that stir feelings stay longer than big gestures that impress only the surface. A man may forget what you wore or the exact words you said, but he will remember how your small actions made him feel. These small acts also reveal authenticity. Grand gestures can be staged or insincere, but little actions that happen naturally cannot be faked for long. They reveal your true character, your genuine care, and your presence. That authenticity imprints because it is trusted. His subconscious holds on to it as something real. The beauty of small acts is that they do not require effort beyond awareness. They are born from paying attention, from being present, from valuing the connection. And because they are simple, they are lasting. He does not forget the way you noticed his needs without him asking. He does not forget the way you encouraged him in a moment of doubt. He does not forget the warmth of your laughter in an ordinary moment. These are the memories that outlive everything else. In the end, it is not the dramatic that makes you unforgettable. It is the consistent, the authentic, the meaningful small acts that his heart cannot erase. They may seem simple to you, but to him, they become the thread of memory he carries long after you are gone, walking away with strength. There is one pattern that leaves a mark deeper than all the others. It is the ability to walk away with strength. Most people believe that staying, clinging, or proving yourself is what secures love. But in reality, it is the power to leave when necessary, with dignity, with calm, and with self-respect, that imprints on a man's mind forever. Walking away is not about anger. It is not about punishment. It is not about playing games. It is about knowing your worth so clearly that you refuse to remain where you are not valued. That choice requires strength, and that strength is unforgettable. A man can forget many women, But he never forgets the one who walked away without begging, without breaking, without losing herself. When you walk away with strength, you communicate something powerful. My value does not depend on your recognition. My life continues with or without you. That message is not spoken with words, but with action. And action imprints deeper than any speech. His subconscious records it as a shock. He expected you to stay. He expected you to tolerate. But instead, you chose yourself. That decision burns into his memory. Psychology shows that people remember moments of loss more intensely than moments of gain. Gains can be repeated. Losses create scars. When you walk away, you become that scar. Not out of cruelty, but because your absence teaches him what your presence meant. The space you leave behind becomes the proof of your impact. This pattern is not easy to embody. It requires trust in yourself. It requires the courage to release what feels comfortable, even when your heart still wants to hold on. But that courage is exactly what makes you unforgettable. A man may desire many women, but he respects and remembers the one who chose strength over dependence. Walking away with strength does not mean closing your heart. It does not mean pretending you never cared. It means caring deeply, but caring for yourself just as much. It means refusing to let love become chains. And it means believing that your future cannot be built on your knees. That kind of self-respect shines in his memory long after the emotions fade. The mark it leaves is twofold. First, he remembers the pain of losing you. Second, he remembers the power you carried as you walked away. Both impressions merge into one unshakable truth. You are not ordinary. You were not forgettable. You were the woman who loved but did not cling, who cared but did not collapse, who walked away when she needed to, and did it with grace. In the end, walking away with strength is not just about him. It is about you. It is about choosing your dignity over his approval, your future over his comfort, your soul over his hesitation. And though it may hurt in the moment, it is this very act that secures your place in his memory. Because nothing is remembered more clearly than the one who could have stayed, but didn't. The deepest mark you can leave on a man is not found in chasing, pleasing, or proving. It is found in presence, in mystery, in confidence, in silence, in the small acts that speak louder than words, and finally in the strength to walk away when the time comes. These patterns are not tricks. They are truths. And when you embody them, you become the woman he cannot forget no matter how much time passes.